Hey friends, welcome to our homestead. Do you feel like the food supply here in this country is never ending, like it's permanent? Or have you seen glitches in the matrix like during the pandemic? Do you think our food system is fragile or robust? Today we're going to talk about the fact that we have the illusion of food in this country. We have the illusion of abundance, we have the illusion of choice, we have the illusion of healthfulness, and how fragile our system actually is and why we need to get back to small farming and gardening right now. Let's talk about it. We're going to go through this in a few different categories, and you will see why we just have the illusion of food here in our country. Some of these categories are going to blend together, and we're also going to talk about that illusion of choice, illusion of healthfulness. Stick with me through all of the categories. The first one is our grocery category. You have probably heard this statistic before, and I'm going to repeat it here. Our grocery stores in this country, most of them, only have a 2 to 3 day supply of fresh foods. That's things like produce, meats, and cheeses. And for prepackaged non-perishables, they only have about a week to 2 weeks supply in the store. But you and I know if there's a hurricane coming, then that supply is gone within 3 hours. And it really depends on how big the store is. Your Walmart supercenters have about 60,000 SKUs in the store. That's food SKUs. A SKU is a stock keeping unit. And that's like 10-ounce boxes of Cheerios or 16 ounces of Bush's baked beans. Walmart neighborhood centers and things like Kroger and things like that have between 35 and 40,000. And places like Trader Joe's only have about 4,000. The reason for the small amount of fresh food in the stores is that most of it is very perishable within 2 to 7 days. Of course, frozen prepackaged things are going to last a lot longer. But here is why you have the illusion of choice in the grocery store. 10 large corporations, that's it, 10 of them, own pretty much all of the brands that you see in the store. Nestle, PepsiCo, Kraft Heinz, Coca-Cola, Mondelez, and some others own almost everything. A lot of those food companies that I just mentioned also own a lot of the personal hygiene products that are in your store as well. Now it's a little bit better on the fresh food side, but if you notice, there's only one brand of avocados coming into your store. Those are bought by a supply middleman through a lot of different farmers. However, it's being funneled down before it gets to you. So you also have an illusion of abundance in the stores. And that's because the way stores are designed is to make you think there's a lot of food there. Those big displays in the centers of aisles, they are all hollow boxes on the inside. There's not a lot of food that's actually there. The way food is faced on the shelves, where it's being pulled to the front and stacked up so it doesn't look like there's any empty space there. That is an illusion as well. There is also an illusion of abundance in the packaging. Everybody knows you buy a bag of chips, it's half full. Now there's partially a reason for that and filling it with air so that the chips don't get squished. I do understand that. But there's actually still very little in those packages comparatively. And there's also something called shrinkflation, which as food prices go up, you're putting less product in the same size box. That's been rampant over the past 6 or 7 years. Friends, I'm going to tell you our food supply is eroding. Now let's talk about farming. The current population in the United States that are actually farmers is 2%. In 1900, it was 40%. Of course, we had a different type of economy back then. But it did rapidly decline. In 1920, it was only 26%. In 1970, it was only 5%. Many people think that large corporations have actually eaten up a lot of U.S. farmland, but that's actually not true according to the stats. Large corporations only own a little under 3% of the farmland in the United States. The rest is owned by family-run corporations and individual farmers. But that 2.85 or so percent of corporate-owned farms actually accounts for 6% of the farmland. And check this out, I don't like this, and you probably don't like this either, but 3.6% of the farmland, or 40 million acres, is owned by foreign companies. I don't think that's right. Did you know the total number of acres in the United States that's designated as farmland is 876 million acres? That might seem like a lot, but let me read you some statistics that are going to be actually pretty shocking. Of that 876 million acres, only 328 million acres of it is designated cropland. The other acres are designated pasture land and rangeland. Both are grazing, but rangeland isn't managed. It's got wild stuff on it. Pasture land is managed. So of that 328 million acres of cropland designated for produce and grains, 200 million of it is grown grains for feeding livestock. That's over 60% of the cropland in the United States is used for soy, corn, and hay for feeding livestock. And it's estimated that around 12 pounds of harvested grain only grows about 1 pound of cow. So if you break that down, only 128 million acres is used to grow food, produce, and grain for human consumption. We have 350 million people in this country. That's only 0.35 acres per person. Of course, not counting the meat or dairy that you would also eat if you do. And that's part of the reason, friends, that you see a lot of our produce coming from South America and Central America and Mexico. Just look in the grocery store and see the country of origin on your blueberries. Part of the time mine come from Michigan, part of the time Washington, and part of the time Chile or Argentina. And that's fine, I am all for global free trade. But there is an illusion there that we have that food all the time, when that system is incredibly fragile and can be interrupted at any point. And people are also used to eating blueberries in the middle of winter, or apples in the spring when they are just not growing here. We have the illusion of massive food production capabilities. That's just not true. And it's for a myriad of factors. We've been lulled to sleep to think that it's always going to be there. It's a permanent supply. When rising fuel costs, labor disputes, and things like that interrupt supply and raise prices. It's just basic economics. If our food supply was locally grown on smaller farms, there would be less interruption in that system. This is why you see a lot more market gardeners nowadays that are popping up everywhere and supplying their local communities. And I think there need to be more of them. I would love to try to get there someday. And this is why we also need every single one of you to grow something on their plot of land, no matter how big it is. Just grow something. Start the learning process and start providing something for yourself. Potatoes and carrots, you can jam a lot in a small space. They keep a long time, and the potatoes are really calorie dense. Friends, the food system is not collapsing right now, but it is severely thinning. It's becoming less and less capable of absorbing outside pressures. It has less redundancy and is less forgiving for increasing multiple stresses. Our system is not designed to endure prolonged instability. Rising costs for producing, from things like rising costs of diesel, fertilizer, replacement parts, farm equipment, reliable water sources, we're in a drought right now, rising transportation costs, etc., etc., etc. And another serious issue is that our food processing is very centralized. There's very few companies that are actually making and packaging the food. And then the distribution network is huge, but it's certainly not local. Congressman Massey has actually brought to light how few meat processing plants there are left in the United States. He's been trying to push through food freedom bills for quite some time, like small cattle farmers being able to take their cattle to a small local processor for the local communities. Right now there is way too much red tape holding back those small cattle farmers. It's not a free economy in a lot of ways. And when these few facilities go down for equipment failures or a disease outbreak or contamination or labor issues, the impact is really widespread. That system has very few alternative pathways like it once did. That needs to change, and if it doesn't, you and I need to produce our own food. Because like I said, the food system is not collapsing now, it is thinning. But one day, it will thin so much, it may collapse under its own weight. And friends, we also have the illusion of healthful food now. We all know the prepackaged stuff is garbage. It is not good for you. But in terms of the fresh foods that we eat, those are also declining in nutrient density. They are devoid of micronutrients, and they just don't taste the same as they once did. And that's because of the intensive synthetic chemical inputs that are used to grow the food nowadays. It's being used to maintain that level that we always expect to be there. But it is killing the soil, it's killing our health, and the actual production is going down. It just degrades long-term fertility in the soil. That's just basic biology and chemistry, friends. That's why a tomato grown in your backyard tastes way better than the one from the store. Over time, more fertilizer input is needed to achieve the same output. So whenever there's ridiculousness in the Middle East that interrupts fertilizer supply, that's a big deal. And it's because our system is so fragile. Go and read some of the news stories right now coming out of Australia, which relies almost 100% on fertilizer from the Middle East, and they are having a serious shortage for their crops right now. They are not being able to use the fertilizers that they need to grow their crops. They're going to have to start importing food. This is a really slow form of decline that rarely gets a lot of attention, but it has really profound long-term implications. And that's why guys like Joel Salatin, I know you've heard of him, are really sounding the alarm for regenerative agricultural practices. And that illusion of health, friends, is really one of the worst things out there because it's keeping us sick. Friends, nobody wants to grow their own food anymore because it takes time and hard work. It takes a lot of time to plant, cultivate, harvest, preserve, and process the food, hours and hours every single day. But I gotta tell you, more people need to do it because it is worth it. And if we don't do it, I think we're gonna be in some serious trouble here in the near future. This is not a message of fear. This is a message of information, so where you can make the appropriate steps for yourself to be able to secure your food supply. I've talked about food preservation and growing food on this channel for 10 years. You can find all of those videos in our archives. We freeze dry, we can, we freeze, we ferment food, all of the above. If you have any thoughts about our food system, leave me a comment in the comment section below. Now go click on this video right here, which are the top survival crops to grow in tough times. Have a beautiful, blessed day. See you next time. Bye.